I got super angry. I mean, super angry. Angry. If the devil was crossing the intersection when I was at a light, I'd have mowed him down. I was that angry. I grew up in a household that not only played music out of the 60s, but big band, my mother's era. They knew big band, they knew, so these are the music, this is some of the music that I was exposed to, as well as classical. My grandmother was a piano teacher who I looked up to, and of course I was a brat of the family because I was the baby. Mm-hmm. And my brother was a Boy Scout. He was in what they call the Y. He swam. He was just a smart kid. And I was his tormenting baby sister that he usually wanted to throw out of his room. Okay, literally throw. It was my room too, but he'd throw me out or whatever, So I really miss him, and anyway, we were at that time. We were actually weren't. Our family unit wasn't living in Fifth Ward. We were living more in Cashmere or Liberty Gardens off of Cavalcade. But when I started school, I actually went to a private kindergarten. It was like Miss Lackey's private kindergarten on Lockwood. But my family was one of those families that they always voted. We took two newspapers. We took the Chronicle and the Houston Post. Mm-hmm. So like I said, we were avid readers. And so there were discussions that as a kid I could hear and listen to and learn. And so they were active in the community. My mother was one of those mothers that, say if someone died in the community, she was that person that went and collected money for that family. Went and, asked for support for that family, and she was that person. I mean, we had things right here. Lyons Avenue was like a business mecca. You heard of the Wall Street? It was like our Black Wall Street going down Lyons Avenue. At that time, I realized that my family took steps to protect us, to protect the children. They did. And so they endured things that we didn't know or quite understand growing up. Myself, my brother, and my cousins. We weren't exposed to segregation. We didn't know that. I saw it on television. I saw I saw the Ku Klux Klan on TV, that kind of thing. I didn't know I didn't know that my family voted. I didn't know that voting for us was so recent, the ability to vote, because they were unable to vote. They were told, you cannot vote, it's illegal. And then when they voted, there were obstacles put in their place, poll taxes and such. I have a church member that came out of Mississippi, and she told me that at that time, they had to count jelly beans in a jar in order to vote. Just ridiculous humiliations throughout. I am part of what they call a CAG, which is the Community Advisory Group. So with the meetings at the Environmental Protection Agency, which I'm thankful that they came into Fifth Ward, because it was a lot of advocates that fought diligently to get support for this community that we had not had in the past. And people have been dying of cancers and things like that for decades. But I recognize that the past maybe 4 years, I see the largest, the quickest progress in that fight and that battle with Union Pacific Railroad, because like any entity, maybe even more uniquely with Union Pacific, since railroads are so old, that's a very old business, that we are now at the table, we're now at the table finally within, say, the last 4 years. And a lot of that are the strong advocacy from people. I mean, just fierce advocacy. It was Sylvester Turner allocated about $5 million for relocation, because people were like, we want to, some people were saying, we're living on contamination, we're having all kinds of problems because of that. We have cancer, people taking care of people with cancer, we're getting all sorts of illnesses, leukemia, just all kinds of things. And so he allocated $5 million, set aside $5 million for the purpose of any type of relocation. Now, the thing about the relocation group that he put together, the one thing that I always had to repeatedly ask for, you need to educate people about relocation. You need to tell them the fine details. You need to break it down, not in legalese. You need to break it down in regular grassroots community language, so that people will understand what's going on. Because we have home ownership. A lot of that home ownership is heirship property. So they've never had bought a brand new house themselves. So they're not familiar with what it is to actually own that house solely. They don't know. They know how to pay the taxes on properties that's passed through their family, but they don't know how to pay the taxes on a house that you've rebuilt. We continue to be a middle to low income community. So money is not flowing in the community, and a lot of people are struggling, particularly over the years, due to various reasons. It's been a plethora of reasons, besides illnesses in their families, besides the disasters and damages to the house that they're actually living in. So I kept asking the city, please, you need to educate people, because people were like, what do you mean I have to give you my property? Because they know that was grandma's property, or that's the first ownership they've had. And I don't think, to me personally, I don't believe the city did a good job at all in walking people through. That's why even to this very day, they have not been able to really connect with people. And one of those people is someone who has they've really been truly helpful in the Fifth Ward community and helping us to navigate the waters of this cancer cluster. And that was Dr. Letitia Plummer, who is one of our at-large council people. And her, and then also someone that I miss to this very day, the extraordinary late Honorable Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She was so amazing. She was able to connect us to the federal side so well because of her expertise, her knowledge, her connections. A lot of those businesses back in the day didn't have certain regulations when they disposed of certain things. Those regulations weren't in place. So we had a rice mill, vinegar mill. There was a lot of companies in this area. And so we got a lot of contamination. We're like a petri dish. That's what I call it. We're a petri dish. Lead, groundwater, lead in the groundwater. In the area that we're in now, we're in the western part of Fifth Ward, off of Jensen. Then you're talking about probably one of the highest levels of asthma, and probably in Houston. It's just a lot of issues. My mother passed away in 1995. That left me One of the things I had asked when my mother was very sick in the hospital, my mother was taking care of her mother, helping with her mother. She stayed in the house with my grandmother, because my grandmother never lived alone. She never lived alone. And so I asked my mama, I said, Mama, what am I going to do with Grandma? What am I going to do with Grandma? Because I had a career. And then my grandmother lived until she passed away in 1999. In 98, at the around September, October, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I never told my grandmother. I had breast cancer twice. I got super angry. I mean, super angry. Angry. If the devil was crossing the intersection when I was at a light, I'd have mowed him down. I was that angry. It just took not only a physical hit, a spiritual hit, a mental hit. It was just one thing after another. It was just something so unique. And the chemo, every time I took that treatment, I was sick. But like I said, I had good friends. So when I would go to the doctors, I had friends that went with me. They said, we're going with you. Trust us. We need to be here with you. And they were right. Because when the doctor would talk to me, I would literally have like an out-of-body experience. I would stare out the window. I wouldn't react. I would just stare out the window, mind somewhere else. It was like my defense mechanism. It was like I just couldn't understand. I was fighting a battle of an invisible enemy. It was invisible. I couldn't fight with my fists. I couldn't curse him out. I couldn't drag him somewhere. It was invisible. And that was just unbelievable to me. I didn't know how to handle that. That wasn't broke. I found out what broke was. Because I wasn't working. I couldn't even, at that time, like I said, I had been a contractor. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't even do what they call, at that time, they would call Texas Workforce Commission, but now it's Texas, Work Solutions or something like that. And I couldn't do none of that because they wanted you to come to these classes and talk to people. That's how I wound up. I had to get some sort of assistance because I couldn't take care of myself. And I went to the lady that was over those classes that everybody had to come to. They had to learn how to go out. You had to prove that you were looking for jobs. You had to do all of that, but you had to go to those facilities. I would be so sick, I would leave the room and just to go throw up and stuff, because I was still sick. And I was explaining this to this lady when I was during chemo. I was explaining it to her. And she's the one that said, this is what I need you to do. So she told me about disability, and then you need to go to this place, and you need to that. So she helped me in a way. So I had already started that ball rolling in a way. It took me a while, but then I did do it. I did start that ball rolling because I realized I just couldn't. I was running out of my own money. I had money. I was living off of my money, and I was gonna run out. And I had, like I said, friends that they helped me navigate how to get food, how to get assistance. And when you would go to those places, this is what I took and brought to advocacy. Sometimes the way those people are treated, the way people who have no other source, no other help are treated, is absolutely appalling. The obstacles they gotta leap over, the things the walls they are running into to back up and have to start all over again will make your jaw fall on the ground. I found out about what they called the gold card at that time and how to get all of that. But I'm telling you, the way they treat people that aren't as educated as I am, or they even have children. I didn't have children at the time. And I was falling through every crack under the sun. I just really started focusing on the processes. They're flawed. It takes people a long time to get anything. Even when I was finally approved for disability, because I literally had to continue. I started taking another type of a pill for cancer, for it to not come back, and they had to talk me into that. I mean, I spent months saying, hell no, I don't want any more prodding. I don't want you cutting on me. I don't want you giving me nothing. I don't want to see y'all no more. Just no more. I'm done.